Okay, folks, this is O's Handcam coming back at you. The last video we posted, we did a welding of a railroad spike cross. And I realized partway through that video and while I was watching it, when I made it, that I didn't cover a lot of things that I needed to cover with this. So we're going to do, I guess, a part 2 of the railroad cross, the railroad spike cross. I'm going to show you a little bit more in depth as the things you need to do when you're doing this. And we'll just go from there. I've got all the lights turned on. I'm hoping we have enough light so you guys can see better. And the other thing that I'm hoping for is the sound of the rain on our tin roof doesn't affect too much. So I'm going to set you over here on the side. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I need to make sure that we cover. And we'll go from there, see how things progress. Okay, so give me a second to get you set up. And look at where I need you to look. There you go. Pull my chair up a little bit. Let's lower you down just a little bit. Again, I'm still kind of new at this. So the first thing we want to do, we got to clean up our spikes. Well, first thing you got to do is you got to collect your spikes. I made a friend with the railroad, and he got me some spikes the other day, which kind of nice. But most of the time you can walk around the railroads, and as long as they're not in a railroad tie, or a tie, you can pick them up and use them. With this project, it doesn't matter whether they're hardened like you buy from a facility or not. So let's pull 2 of these spikes out here, and let's show you some of the things that we want to do with our spikes. They're going to line up back to back. So I flatten the tops and make sure there's a good connection there. Right here, where they connect, in here and in here, you want to get that ground down nice and smooth. And then the next step, this is one of the steps that I kind of forgot with the last one, so we're going to make up for it this one. What I like to do is I want to turn my spikes right side up or upside down, whatever you want to call it. And I want to make sure these ends are square or the same length. So that one needs to take a little bit more off of it. So we're going to set that set aside. This requires 6 sets of spikes. So again, you can see here, they're on the flat. They're flattened down, the backs are ground down. Where they meet is ground down. So we'll do the same thing here. We're going to stand them up on the back and see if they're level. Those 2 pass muster, so they're good. Again, you want to pair these up to where they're the closest in height and size. If you notice, this one's already way off. Again, the tops are ground flat, the backs here are ground flat, and when you put them together back to back, you can see where they connect on both sides are ground clean. It looks like I might need to take a lot off of this one, but let's try something. This one over here is a little bit long. Let's see if oh, look at that. Those 2 match. So I'm going to make that a pair, so I don't have to do any grinding on that pair. Now all of these are for the base of the cross. Let's try this over when it was short. Okay, they look like they are pretty close, but I'm going to take a little bit off the top of this one just to make sure that they sit straight. I discovered with the other one, when you look at it close, it wasn't as straight as I would have liked it to be. These are the 3 sets for the base. Now I have this other set over here, which is for the top, the 3 spikes at the top. If you notice on these, they're not ground on the end, because these won't be welded at the end to end like the others will be. So again, we want to line them up, again, right here where they meet, and on the tips has been ground, so when you go to weld them, they are nice and clean. And they look like that one's a little long. So let's try another one. That one's way short. That one's way long, so we'll check that one in a minute. How are we here? Still, that one's a little short. I'm separating them over here as to the long ones and the short ones. I should have done that yesterday. Now that is a good set. Now these were the two that were short. So let's check. Oh my. We gotta knock a lot off that. So, because if you notice, this one's broken at the tip. So it's going to be tough to find one to match it. So let me mark it right here, and we'll cut down to the line. We'll grind down to the line. Let's see how these two long ones are. Oh wow, that's still real long. Let's check out this long one over here and this long one here. See if they match better. Nope, that's even worse. Okay, so we know what we got to do now to get these ready. And this one needs squared up a little bit here on the tip. That's the one I'm going to cut anyway. So let's make a line about right there, and we'll grind that one down to that tip. So if I remember right, yep, we had one here that needed ground, and we had one here that needed ground. So I'm going to set them aside. Double check your stuff, folks. Yeah, so I've got one here that needs ground and one over here. Okay, I set them over there. Couldn't remember where I set it for a second, folks. Now, let's take you over here to my vise. And that looks like a pretty good spot. So I'm going to put my railroad spike in my vise. I'm going to grab my grinder here. I have a Bauer battery, cordless, whatever you want to call it, with a flat disc on it. These flat discs remove metal pretty good, so I'm going to take that line off. And because the tips are going to be welded somewhat together, I put a little bit of a bevel on these, so when you go to weld them, they will weld pretty close flat together. I think I went a little bit too far on that one, so let's take a little bit off of this one. I want them to be about the same height. Too far off, and when you go to weld them together, they won't line up and your cross won't be straight like the last one. It doesn't take much to get them even. Now, see, that's good and even. Let's check this other set. I know we're going to take a fair amount off of this one too. I'm sorry I didn't show you guys this last time, but these are things that I realized that I had done wrong with the last one. I never measured the tips. I never measured the length of the spikes. I didn't do any of that. I actually did the flap wheel on the entire spike. It looks good, but it doesn't look good to me. And again, if I remember right with this one, I just needed to go down to the line. And I did. So let's put a little bit of a bevel on that end. It doesn't need to be a huge bevel, just a little bit. And that should be it for the bevel that we need. Let's double check our height again. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's set these over with the top pieces of our cross. And one other thing to think about, folks, is as you're doing this, you want to make sure you've got your PPE, personal protective equipment. You want to make sure that stuff is where it needs to be. Now, I'm going to give my trusty welding table here. We'll give it a quick wipe off. Make sure we're set where we need to be. Now, if you notice, here in the center of my welding table, this welding table has been used for painting projects, all kinds of stuff. This was painted at one time with a heavy paint, so it didn't allow a good connection through my ground rod. So I cleaned this up right down to the bare metal, made it nice and shiny, so I can get a good ground right here. So let me get my welding helmet on, which should be it's hanging right here. Let me get my welding helmet on, get the welder turned on. Here, turn my heat back up from where it was the other day when I was welding. Turn my weld speed, my wire feed down just a little bit. Hold on one second, folks. Okay, we're back, folks. One of the things when you're welding, you want to make sure you have your proper PPE, personal protective equipment on. My wife got me a pair of these welding sleeves. These are welding proof, heat proof, and these are also cut resistant. So my wife got me a pair of these for Christmas. I have yet to use them. Excuse me. So let's give them a good try here with this first weld. Got my welding glove, and on my stinger hand I have a smaller, thinner leather glove to just in case I get a spark that flies up. Now, I don't quite know how this is going to work with this camera. Get a little bit of fresh welding wire. Again, this is a flux core welder. You can get these at Harbor Freight, you can get these online, Amazon, any place that you like to shop. These run anywhere from $75 to, I think the highest one I've seen was about $250. And even at Harbor Freight, they're a good price. So let's do that, nice and square. Put a little tack in there. That tack didn't stick very well. Let's put a tack on there. That tack stuck, so let's make sure everything's lined up the way we want it. It just still didn't hold. Give me a second, let me find a clamp. So I don't have to hold it, I can keep a hand on my stinger. Set of welding clamps, or a set of C-clamps, vice grip clamps, whatever you've got, work real well for this type of stuff. Loosen up just a little bit. Get you lined up. Give you a good clamp. Still not quite where I want it. Okay, let's go from there. Get my stinger glove back on. Let's try this again, folks. Now let's see if we can take the clamp off. Nope, I still missed it. Now you know what? This happens sometimes. Let's try it again. Let me turn my heat up a little bit farther. Maybe I'm not getting good penetration. I don't know what's going on here today, folks. I did this grate the other day. It might be the fact that it's wet and rainy out. I don't know. So I'm going to turn these over so I can grind those welds back off before I come back to them. Now that's a better tack. Okay, now let's turn this so we can run our bead. Took the tip of our wire off because it creates a little bubble in the end. Let's get that cut off so we can continue to flow right. Again, folks, I'm still a beginner welder, so I still have issues. But if you notice, I haven't gotten frustrated. Well, that's one of the ugliest welds I think I've ever done. Let's see if I can fix that a little bit. I had to turn my shield down just a little bit, just because I couldn't see very well. That's a little bit better, still not as good as it needs to be. Maybe we'll fix that on the end. Run the wire brush, just tap it, some of the slag off, let's give it a wire brush. Yeah, I'm going to have to grind this weld off the spike just so it looks a little bit better. Now we'll go up here to the end of the spike, and we'll put a bead there. Well, that looks pretty good, folks. We're going to keep doing this around all of this. I'll take a break so you don't have to watch everything that I'm doing. We'll come back to you when we're getting ready to start welding them all together. Okay, folks, I moved over here to my vise to hold these spikes. And I figured I'd bring you along on this weld. Again, I don't know how this is going to turn out on the video, so bear with me, folks. I'm still getting fresh, getting new with this. That's not good, folks. I keep wandering off my line because it's tough to see. Trying to get my helmet set right. There's no weld that's going to have to get cleaned off there. You know what? That one looks like it's got good penetration. Good penetration. Oh, there's one little spot right here I want to fill in. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have a lot of grinding to do when I'm done here, folks. But you know, it's all part of it. Don't get frustrated. If you're kind of new to this, don't get frustrated. It happens to everybody. Again, I'm kind of new. I haven't been doing this very long. I enjoy doing it. Don't get me wrong there. I enjoy doing this. And I'm just hoping you guys learn a little bit of something. The key there is that I'm hoping to put across to you is don't get frustrated, folks. It happens to everybody. Again, I'm still new. Let's run one more bead here. Got my helmet too dark now. Now that one looks a little bit better. Not as straight as I'd like it to be, but that looks a lot better. So, I'll shut you back down, and we'll go from there. Well, folks, as I told you earlier, you want these to be flat across the top, and my weld's a little bit high. So my next step, before I go much farther, I've got all 6 pairs welded. So now the step is to get these flat across the top. I just use a straight edge. You can tell it's a little high in the middle. So let's do some grinding and get this knocked down. We've almost got it. I'm going to switch positions here. A little bit more over here. And I'm happy with that. The other thing I'm going to do while I got these out here is I'm going to check the welds on the sides and see how they are. I know I got a couple of them that aren't the greatest. See, like this one. This one's not the greatest. I'm going to grab my other glove and get to that. Sorry folks, I forgot where I put my other glove. I got it. These don't need to be perfectly smooth, they just need to look somewhat better. Well, that's 2 of them. It's probably hurt your ears enough. So I'll shut you down and bring you back as we get all these done. And we'll start welding it all together. Okay folks, I hope you can hear me over the rain. The next thing you want to do is make sure you get your spikes level. And I'll move you over here to show you the other one. And the other thing you want to do is make sure your spikes are straight. Now to get them leveled, you might have to pull out some of your little scrap pieces to make sure they're level. Which is what I had to do. I had to dig in my scrap bin to make sure everything was where it needs to be. To make sure everything is where it needs to be. Just put a couple tacks on there. Hopefully they turn out better than the last ones. And one of the things I was told years ago, that if you can't be a welder, you better be a good grinder. I ground my welds down fairly smooth. They don't look too bad, but they're not the best. But again, you're new. You're not going to get it perfect every time. So, be easy on yourself, folks. This stuff isn't that hard. It can get frustrating. That's a decent tack. Well, let's go through and let's get this one welded up. I'll show you this one real quick. Hopefully it'll be quick. Hey, that one turned out pretty good. Yeah, buddy, we're getting better at this. That's just it, folks. My first couple welds didn't turn out so well, but as things went along, my welds got a little bit better. Same thing's going to happen to you. You get back into the swing of it. It's been 2 or 3 days since I've welded last, so don't be hard on yourself, folks. Grind it off and start over. There we go. I like the way that looks. Let's give her a little tap. Give her a little tap, 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 tap. And a little bit of wire brush. That looks good. Now my spacing on this is a headset bearing race off of a bicycle, because I am a bicycle mechanic, and just a piece of the lid off of a 50-gallon drum. I've got a couple more pieces floating around here. Let's double check, make sure we're straight. Yeah, that looks good. Double check, make sure we're... Well, oh yeah, folks, I'm getting better at this stuff. So again, let's keep welding, and we'll keep bringing you along for the process. Okay, folks, besides making everything nice and straight, you want to make sure everything you're working on, when you go to put these sides on, you want to make sure they're as square as you can get them. Took me a second, but I got them where I want them. I've got them tapped. So we're going to continue working on it and get the other ones done. I thank you guys for following along. I'm enjoying doing this for you guys, so I hope you enjoy it.